Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Meanahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Tanto, Cuore, Winter Romance, and it's from Japan Made Games. If you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, go to the Kickstarter project page and find out more information. You can do that by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description underneath this video. Go there, find out more information, and hopefully consider backing the project. Now, Tanto Cuore should be familiar to you if you're familiar with my channel, because I talk about it a lot. It is a long-running deck-building game series. There are 4 other complete sets. This is the 5th set, and just like all the ones before it, it is standalone, meaning it's the only thing you have to buy if you just want to play the game, but it can mix together with the other sets. It's fully compatible. Now, every set of Tanto Cuore has to do with maids. You're employing maids, you're using them for their actions. It's what I would call a static deck-building game, where you have different piles of cards that you purchase from, and so on and so forth. But every set introduces some new mechanism or some new and theme to the game as well. So, for instance, the last set was Oktoberfest. So you had maids, but they were serving beer, and you actually had a beer mechanism in the game of a sort. And before that, it was Romantic Vacation. This one, it's Winter Romance, and the theme is not just, well, winter, but you also have a brand new mechanism of couples, where you're actually making couples out of the maid cards in order to get more points. But also, this is the first set that introduces butlers, who essentially act in game terms like maids, but of course they're male characters, which is something the game really hasn't had up to this point, and a lot of fans have wanted. So it's just thematic, but it is pretty much a big deal for this series. There's actually quite a few new things here, so let me go ahead and show you that with a prototype copy of the game. So some things on the cards might change in the final version, and I'm not going to go over in excruciating detail how to play the game itself, because first off, I just want to focus on the new stuff for this set. I assume that a lot of people who are watching this have played, or at least know of Tanto Cuore. But if you do, if you're completely new to this and you want to know more, I do have a review of the original edition. It's a very old video, so bear with me on that one. But I'll link to that somewhere too, so just so you can get an idea of how the game plays. But in any case, come on back, take a look at this new stuff, then we're going to discuss it further. Winter Romance is the 5th entry in the Tanto Cuore deck-building game series. Like its predecessors, it is a standalone game, but it can be mixed and matched with cards from each of the previous 4 sets. Much like previous sets, it has the standard love cards, but this is a good time to mention that also like those other sets, this has brand new original artwork. There are 2 new maid chiefs, but to be specific, one of them is actually a butler chief, which is a new thematic element to the game. There are several other butlers in the game as well, but it is important to note that any time the game refers to maids, it also refers to butlers. Same thing with my explanation from here on out. Before we go any further, let's just get right into the major new elements of the game, since so many other card effects refer back to them. There is a new type of double-sided card, the meetup spot. There are 3 different meetup spots. All the Spot 1 cards go on top of all the Spot 2 cards, and all of those go on top of the 1 Spot 3 card. These cards can be purchased like buildings and placed in front of your private quarters. Spots 1 and 2 allow you to use the new approach mechanic. On your turn, if you have Spot 1 or 2, you can choose one player and make an approach. Thematically, you're trying to get one of your maids to hook up with one of your opponent's maids. Take one maid card from your hand and place it face down in front of you. The chosen player then takes the highest cost maid card from their hand and places it face down. Secretly look at that maid without showing the other players, if there are any other players. If your approaching maid has a higher cost, you succeed. If not, you can make up the difference and put yourself over the top by discarding love cards to make up the difference, regardless of what the actual value of the love cards is. If you can't or don't want to do this, nothing happens, the other person can take back their maid, and you can try again on a future turn. If you succeed, however, flip your spot card, take both involved maid cards as a new couple, and place them next to the spot in your private quarters. Spot 1, when flipped, will give you 2 points per couple you have at the end of the game, and Spot 2 gives you 3 points for each one. If those maids in the couple would normally give you points on their own at the end of the game, they don't anymore. Those effects are negated. As compensation, your opponents take a social bonus card to hand. These count as Love 1 cards, but they don't actually provide any love to you. Rather, they are worth 1 point at the end of the game, and you can use them as a discarded Love card for approaching effects. On the other hand, you must take a Friends card into your discard pile. Useless junk on their own, Friends are worth 1 point for every 3 of them you've managed to acquire at the end of the game. Meetup Spot 3 is different. It can only be purchased by someone who has at least 1 couple, and it gives you a static 3 points at the end of the game. In fact, it ends the game. There's 1 new building in the game as well. Chapels allow you to place 1 couple underneath them because the couple gets married. A couple in the chapel cannot be targeted by opponents' effects, and if you do have them on there at the end of the game, it goes from being worth -5 points to 10 points. There are 2 new event cards in the stock. Blizzards can negate the victory points of opponents' buildings unless they discard love cards to remove them. Trials are double-sided events. They're placed on a couple, and if another player places a trial in your quarters, if you can reveal a card costing 3 or more, you can flip the trial over. Each flipped trial is worth 1 point, and if you have 3 or more at the end of the game, they're each worth an additional 2 points. There are many new general maids and butlers, many of which have abilities to tie in with the newly introduced mechanics. I'm not going to go over every single new card, but I will point out one particular butler that adds a new mechanic to the game. If you choose to play with the pile of Dermot Garen cards, you must also play with a shuffled stack of special drama cards, and every time you employ, that is purchase, a Dermot card, you get to draw and immediately resolve a drama card, then place it into your private quarters. Drama cards can afflict the other players with negative effects like discarding cards, or give you victory points, or even give other players negative points. That's a brief look at everything new in Winter Romance for Tanto Cuore. Well, this isn't a final review of this set. I don't need to belabor the point of how I feel about the other Tanto Cuore sets that have been fully released. But I think it's very interesting to talk about a lot of the new things that are added in Winter Romance, and it really feels like one of the most significant changes to the game. And I'm not just talking about the addition of butlers, but really, if I could spend a moment talking about that, that is a pretty big deal, because I think a lot of fans have wanted that for quite some time. A lot of people haven't just wanted to see female maids of varying types over and over and over again. A lot of us didn't mind that at all, but it's nice that you have the different theme, and it's a chance for them to show off new artwork as well. And every set of Tanto Cuore has brand new artwork, and this is no exception, even for the static cards that are in every set, like the love cards, which, by the way, it's a pretty big deal, because so many other deck building games I've played that have multiple standalone sets just reprint the same exact cards over and over again. Tanto Cuore has always bucked that trend by putting the most thematic, new thematic artwork for that set in the game. But having the butlers is a pretty big deal for those people who really wanted it, even if it is just cosmetic change. But as far as the new mechanisms go, the couple thing is just very interesting, because you have to make a very specific decision to do. It's not something you can just do on a whim, because it could kind of backfire on you. When you put down your maid in order to initiate the coupling, which sounds kind of funny, the other player is forced to put down their highest card, even if they don't want to. And because cards in this game, in this set in particular, can go up to 8 cost cards, that could backfire on you pretty drastically. So you have to sort of plan for that. You can hope for the best and say, well, I've got a couple of love cards. I'm sure they're not going to have anything higher than like a 4 or something like that. I'll play it too. Or something to that effect. But they may not. You may know that they bought some high cost cards. So now you have to plan your whole turn around it. Well, now I have to play multiple love cards. I won't be able to do anything else this turn. But it might be very, very worth it for you to do that, because there are games of Tanto Cuore that have very low point thresholds. The difference between the winner and the next person, the second place runner-up, can be just a couple of points. So getting those points for having a couple and being able to flip your spot card over, that can be a big deal. And that's an interesting part of the game, too, because just having the spots lets you do the approaching, but being able to lock it down and have flip the card over and have those cards now count for points on top of that, though they are able to be targeted by opponents' effects if you're not careful and if you don't have the new building in the set, which is the chapel. So all these different things hook together and work together. Also the fact that the third spot can end the game if someone races to get it is another interesting part of this new set. There's tons of new general maids for you to use. There's one maid whose mere presence, his mere presence in the game adds a brand new stack of cards, the drama cards, which you can use, which are all good for you in some way. They either are going to negatively affect the other players, give you a victory point boost, or both, and so on and so forth, or take away points from the other players. So that's interesting too. New event cards. Event cards are something that were primarily in the first set of Tanto Cuore, but they have been touched upon as the sets have progressed. There's just a lot of stuff here, and I think that if you already are a fan of Tanto Cuore, you're probably going to want more stuff anyways. But you might also be interested in the fact that there's just these brand new mechanisms that feel so distinct and different from other things that have already been introduced, while still staying true to what Tanto Cuore was in the past. So, if you're someone who's brand new to Tanto Cuore, and you just like the idea of, hey, let me get in on the ground floor of a Kickstarter for a new set that's going to have a lot of cool extra stuff as well, then definitely this is something that you should be interested in. Then if you like it, you can go back and revisit the old sets. If you are already a fan of Tanto Cuore, I probably don't need to tell you about this. You're probably already interested, but maybe you just were like, well, maybe there's just not that much new stuff here for me. But I think that there is. I think there is a lot here that you could potentially be interested in. So, don't take my word for any of this. Go to the official Kickstarter project page, find out more information, and hopefully consider backing it for yourself. There will be a link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. That is Tanto Cuore Winter Romance from Japanime Games. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting our sponsors. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.